In this presentation, I am going to be talking about beginning your sketches for the abstract collage. But first, I wanted to show you this artwork. I usually do this together just because abstract art is simplified. It doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily represent something, but it doesn't represent it in a way where everyone would agree as to what it is. So if we were to look at this artwork, what does it remind you of, or what could the artist have been looking at or inspired by? Uh, so, for example, I've always thought this reminds me of a koi fish pond, and I know a lot of people have said I used to do an exercise where what does this remind you of? You write it down, and a lot of people have said, a fish or sea creature of some type. So even though it is abstract, it can still technically be inspired by something and represent it, but not necessarily in a way where everyone would agree as to what it is. So composition, just going back and refreshing our minds on that, it's the visual placement or arrangement of the elements in an artwork. So how you choose to lay out your artwork, and you're going to be working with this. So open your sketchbook to your notes on principles. You should have balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, pattern, rhythm, and unity in your sketchbook. So I am going to do an exercise with you where we're going to look at these three artworks and decide which principle of art these represent or what they could represent. Looking at this artwork here, if we were to decide on what principle of design this represents, what would you choose? Now, everybody's will be slightly different, and that's fine. For me, the strongest one that this could represent is emphasis. To me, all of the elements in the artwork are leading your eye towards this focal point. You could also say that this is movement as well, since it's directing our eye. But I would say emphasis, since this one area is really highlighted and our eye kind of rests on that one spot. Going up to this artwork here, if you had to choose a principle, what would you choose? For me, since this is pretty much a mirror or reflection, minus the color choice, I would say symmetrical or asymmetrical. Most likely asymmetrical balance, because even though it's mirrored, the colors are not exactly the same. It could even be radial as well, since it kind of radiates out in a circle. But any of the balances I'd say are strong for this artwork. This last one, since we have a triangle pattern over and over, I would say pattern. Because we can tell exactly what's going to come next. So for every 5 watermelon triangles, we have a black triangle. This could also go as rhythm as well, since it's a consistent shape and color over and over. So you are going to be creating a composition sketch. So if you want to write that definition down in your sketchbook, a composition sketch is a rough draft of the layout of your artwork. So we are going to create our own representations of principles. So I have this example here, and I created these little composition sketches. This is what you're going to do in your sketchbook. So here are some of my examples. I have symmetrical balance, so it's exactly the same on both sides. I have rhythm, and we're not using color or anything yet, just a pencil. Rhythm is consistent shapes and colors eventually. Emphasis, your eye kind of goes to that focal point. Contrast, where this side is there's a lot going on, it's chaotic, there's organic lines and shapes, and it's very contrasted with this side that's very straight and more simpler. So there's a lot of contrast going on in this little composition sketch. What I want you to remind you of before you start drawing is abstract art. These are examples of artwork that are not abstract. This is what you eventually will be doing. You'll be creating a collage. But when you do your composition sketch, you can't draw something that we would recognize right away. So for example, this is a volcano. We can tell right away, everyone would agree. So that is not abstract. This is a fish, a hand, an ice cream cone, sunbeam, rose, all of these are not abstract. So you need to remember this as you start working because you'll lose points if you create something that we would recognize right away. So in your sketchbook, you have 7 principles. You are going to decide on 3 of them that you are going to exemplify or draw out as a composition sketch. So there are 4 here. You're only going to do 3. Choose the 3 you want to do, and after you have drawn them out, you are going to circle the one that you want to create as a collage in the future. So circle it, then you're going to take a picture of this and turn it into Google Classroom. So that is your assignment for today.